This Hangout on Air is live. My name is Paul Roth. I'm in LA. And this is Paul and YouTube in the morning. I'm going to skip my theme song because we're a little bit late. And happy Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, which is apparently a thing that NASA is doing. There's a link to that in the description of this video. Today we are joined by my friend
Annie Elainey. Hi.
Hi. And as usual, my dog is sleeping while I do this. Thanks for joining us, Annie. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Miami, Florida right now.
Hot dog. How is it over there?
In my room. The wet tea that's all over the floor. I want to throw a towel on it. Hold on. USB device not recognized. And we're on this laptop that I hate.
Oh no.
And it's going to keep doing things that I hate it doing. I'm back, kind of.
I'm so sorry.
This is horrible. I know. I was planning to meet up with you on my cell phone. And then that didn't work out either.
Darn.
Oh, well.
That's technology keeps getting in the way of these darn things.
It's probably Mercury in retrograde. Just ruining my life.
Well, you know, I normally start off my shows with dislike. We can dislike the fact that we've got spilled tea on your floor.
Yeah, it's horrible. But like I said before, it will probably at least smell good later. Probably. It'll make my room smell like French vanilla.
Excellent. That's a nice smell. It's nice.
Yeah. I just don't want it to get sticky. Luckily, I have a towel right here. I'm gonna dump it on that. All right, did it, nailed it. That's over. I can relax. Yay! How are you, Paul? What's up with you?
I am good. I am furious. My first dislike. I'm furious that the Department of Education and Department of Justice retracted the guidance for Title IX protection for trans kids in schools, allowing them to do stuff like, you know, use the bathroom that they should be using. That is a big dislike for me. It's
really bad. Like, if I think about it too hard, I'll get real sad. So I don't want to think about it too that hard right now. But it's one of those things. We do have in Miami, TransCon is coming up soon. So I'm hoping that when something like this happens, that cisgender allies will come out and show the numbers of how our trans community is being supported. So hopefully that happens. Like, that might be the silver lining of it. Whenever something really bad happens, I'm always hoping the silver lining is that people will show up and show their solidarity for other people. So hopefully that happens.
Hopefully. And did you have a dislike that you wanted to add to the show?
A dislike? Besides tea being on the ground, no. I'm sure that there is very terrible things happening right now, but right now I'm feeling stable and okay. So my brain's not grabbing at them as quickly. So I'm okay for now with the dislikes.
Awesome. Then I'm going to move over to likes. And one of my big likes is that Elena Fry and her service dog Wonder won the Supreme Court's case to determine whether or not they're allowed to sue their former Michigan school for being discriminatory against their disabled access.
Yay! Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah.
Yay!
It took me a little while to understand the news story, so I'm gonna try to give you my layperson's recap of what I think happened. Apparently, Elena Fry and her family tried to sue the Michigan school that was not allowing her to bring her service dog to school when she was a kid, when she was very much younger. But the courts in Michigan said, hey, you should go through all the red tape of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, aka IDEA. You should go through all that junk first before you sue the school, because that's why it's there. And the Supreme Court said, bullshit. You are just being discriminatory against an American with disabilities. That falls under the ADA. Sue the hell out of them. Just sue them. And I say, thank you, Supreme Court. Thank you, Justice Kagan.
People actually, fortunately, have quite a bit of power with that. It's just about finding the resources, finding the energy, finding the time and the money to go to court and do things like that. Because when it comes to ADA and lack of accessibility, there's plenty of spaces locally that I could walk into and be like, I'm gonna sue you for being inaccessible. But really, right? Like, as me, where am I gonna find the time, the energy, the money to take up so many businesses in that way?
Yeah. So people are not in the know think that the ADA is some sort of golden ticket to winning all sorts of money, but it's not. Yeah, it takes time, resources. It takes spoons that people who are disabled don't have.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, and thank you for acknowledging that. Like, there's just a lot of like, there's a lot that disabled people have to go through already. I was talking to Ricky yesterday about like how hard it is for her to get interpreters for certain things and to be acknowledged in certain events where she's going to be speaking. Like, she was literally told that she's low on the priority list or something, and I was like,
oh fuck no,
that's really terrible. But I'll stop discussing that in case I'm not supposed to. But like, that's just an example of how people will literally tell us, yeah, trying to make it accessible to you is not the priority right now.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's we have an entire history of that in our country, which is why the ADA was necessary to begin with.
Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to contribute specifically to the likes section?
Well, not if I focus on news, but
it can be personal.
I do want to add a like. I want to add a like that I like the Santa Clarita Diet series on Netflix, which was really cool.
Oh yeah, you've been posting about like that on Facebook, on Twitter, and how it's it really like rings true to you as a person with disabilities.
Yes, like it was so surprising because I like, you know, zombie mythology, and like all kinds of it, and from Walking Dead to Santa Clarita Diet, which is very different types of zombies. And so I was just looking for zombie stuff, but a lot of the dialogue really was kind of relatable to chronic illness, because they explained becoming a zombie like a virus, and that like this virus changed her physically. So there's a lot of dialogue of like people trying to, they noticed her being sick at first, and they wanted to impose some kind of unsolicited medical advice, which her husband was like, no thank you. Had a really delicious line about it. Like, what was it? He said, "Are you a doctor? Neither am I. So let's not dishonor that profession, which takes like 8 years to train in, by the way, by assuming that we can make medical like opinions like that."
Yes, that was right in the pilot. That was a funny episode. That was funny.
Yeah, as soon as I can memorize that line, I'm gonna start using it. But like different little nuances of like, she wonders if her husband will still love her this way, and she realizes that she has certain accessibility needs, like because she has certain restrictions, right? Yeah. And it's gonna take her a certain extra effort to get those dietary needs met. And so she has conversations with her husband like, you don't have to do this with me. I can do this by myself. I would like your support, but if you can't, I understand. And her kind of like trying to read where she is with her support system with her husband, and at a time she even feels unattractive because of her new condition. So
wow, there are lots of parallels.
Yeah, so she feels the need to hide certain aspects of her new condition physically, and she like doesn't want to, you know, do the hibbity dibbity with him because she's scared that he won't like her new body anymore. So right, so I'm like, this is so many parallels. This is so good.
That's very cool. So if people are not aware, that is the Santa Clarita Diet, which is on Netflix. The entire series, the first season, is out available now. Not sponsored, but if Netflix wants to sponsor me, I will take it.
That'd be great.
In the chat, we are joined by Ewan. Good morning, Ewan. And None of the Above. Hey there, None of the Above.
Hello.
Let's see here. For my learning segment, I learned, pursuant to my previous segments, I learned about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. I didn't really know what IDEA was before. And then I also learned a little bit about the guidance for Title IX. By the way, I didn't really understand what the guidance does, so I found an article from the Transgender Law Center, which explained it pretty well, and I've got a link to that in my video description as well. So you can check those out. Have you learned anything particularly recently?
What have I learned? Oh, I just learned how to turn on the actual live cam. I just learned that now. Moved my stuff out of the way. This is a wider lens. It's a wider lens on the computer. So I just learned how to do that finally.
Well done.
Yay! I don't know. I also learned that I more than likely will be going to VidCon this week. Yeah, via somebody that's working there. I don't know how much details I can give out yet, but
I
like
remember that you were
work is done.
Very cool. I remember that you already knew that you had like an in to the con, but you weren't sure about transportation and accommodations. Yeah,
there's some more accommodations that I've realized I have. I'm not sure if the entire thing is 100% guaranteed, but I know that more headway is there, so I'm like 75 to 80% sure that I will be at VidCon this year. So that's exciting.
Sweet.
Yay.
Sweet. I want to see you like supporting something having to do with accessibility, but also on the Less Than Famous panel. I want both for you. Both.
We'll see. We'll see.
And Kat Lausen wants you on there too. She said so.
Yay, she's the best. I love
awesome.
Kat Lazo.
She's great. I'm going to move into the helping section and say that my helping thing that I did yesterday was I contributed to the Trans Lifeline. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have very much, but I made a little bit of money yesterday, and I basically just gave it all to them. And I've got a link to their donate page in the description of this video. More than ever today, the Trans Lifeline, which provides support for people who want to call in, who are trans, who are in danger, who need help, who are considering self-harm. This lifeline is essential, and if you can also contribute, please do. If not, at least know that it's there and spread the word about it.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that you wanted to interject for the helping segment?
For helping?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just want to shout out that I put my greatest effort into doing this, and I just hope that other people will, is that when you see other communities are being hit, to check in with all your friends who identify within that community on how they're doing. Because even if, for example, like if you have trans friends, like check in with them, even if they're not trans youth, because that kind of thing can still strike people emotionally. Even when something is not directly impacting them, because it gives this kind of sign, this kind of message to people within that community that they are lesser than, and that can really mess with people with their mental health. So if like myself, you have about $0 in the bank to be helping anybody out in an economical way, you can try and be there for them in an emotional way and support them in that way.
That is really good advice, and I'm not good at it. I am like, when I see stuff that I know would help, would hit various friends of mine in marginalized communities, I am not good at reaching out to those friends directly. I am much better at doing like wide broadcasts of support. I feel almost like I'm encroaching on them. I feel like I'm like intruding and saying, hey, I figure that I know how you're feeling right now, so I'm going to interject here and say, I'm here for you. Which is, I mean, I don't know. That's me projecting. It's me projecting my fears on how I can be a good friend. But it's
doing it on a wide scale is very good too, because it shows that people care. For example, last night I saw a lot of little messages to trans youth of support through Twitter, and I know that, for example, if something like that would happen, if I were to see messages of support in mass, like after the Sagamihara massacre, I would have been like, wow, my community is seen and people care about my community. So that kind of thing, even if it's like a little tweet that says, trans youth, I support you, it will get seen, and it does help even the slightest bit for the communities that are suffering, because at least they know they're not invisible. At least they know that people are watching as these things are happening. So that's good.
Reassuring. Well, good. I'm pretty good about that, so that's reassuring to me. Thank you. I have no specific updates about my life that I wanted to share. I think you just shared an update about yours, VidCon.
Yeah, I was really excited to get to make some more headway with that. So I'm excited. And I actually feel like such a joy in my heart right now, because at the beginning of this year it sucked. I had pretty much the most horrible New Year's I've had in my entire life, because I was midnight was coming and I was mid-flare because of the weather, because I was in Tampa and it was below 50 degrees, which it sounds like nothing to a lot of people, but for me it's such a drastic change from my regular climate, which is usually above 80 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, and so all my joints were on fire, and I looked like Kristen Stewart at the end of the first Twilight movie, shaking and in gross amounts of pain. And this is the New Year's Eve party. Everybody's having a great time, and I'm suffering on the couch just to be present with everyone. And they wrap me in electric heating blankets and stuff, but I'm still not doing well.
Oh.
And they did the countdown, and everybody's celebrating, and I'm sitting there basically the picture of, the grandma that can't get out of her chair while everybody's partying was what I looked like. And so that was a horrible start to my year, but at the same time, while I'm suffering inside my brain, deep inside my cerebellum, I'm I feel like good things are gonna happen in my personal life. I feel like
that is not how I thought that story was gonna end. That's great. We are joined in. What's that?
Because I had to hope for something. I was in so much pain, and I'm I have to try and hope that it's not gonna always be like this. And so a part of me thought, I think I'm gonna figure out ways to travel this year. I think that I'm gonna and so far I have a little calendar for the first half of the year with LGBT events, and then VidCon, and hopefully Playlist Live, where I get to, obviously get out of the house, but interact with my communities IRL.
That would be awesome. That's very cool. We are joined in the chat by Rebel Wheels NYC, Michelle, who says, "Hey Paul, hey Annie, good morning."
Yay! Hey Michelle.
And then I'm going to go to my plans section. These are going to be pretty simple. Tuesday, next week, Tuesday, Emma Tobias has rescheduled, so she's going to be my guest on this morning live show on Tuesday. Check in for that. Great booktuber, great feminist, great artist. And then I think I will be voice acting in another Stephen Cash audio production in the next month or so. And he is going to be, I'm excited about it. And he is going to be my guest on Thursday morning. So maybe we'll talk about that on Thursday morning.
Yay!
And as usual, I'm going to keep on plugging that my 4th YouTube anniversary is coming up March 23rd, 1 month from today. And I still don't have plans for it. I still need to figure out something to do. So leave me suggestions on what I should do for my 4th anniversary celebration.
Creativity will strike.
It will.
You have really great ideas.
I try. You do too. I should brainstorm with you some ideas because you're really creative.
Thanks. My Less Than Famous video, I came up with like 48 hours before I turned it in.
I saw you said that 48. That's amazing.
Thanks. I wasn't gonna do it. I really wasn't. I was like,
I'm glad you did.
Because I got real stuck in my head that the questions are the same as they are last year, and my first time applying was last year, and I was like, I already answered all your questions. So I just, because there was no incentive to be creative from them because they gave the same questions, my brain immediately hard focused on like, so I'm gonna make the same video. I'm gonna like quote myself because my answers are still the same. And then I don't know. And then the soundtrack of La La Land came on in my shuffle, and I was like, okay.
That's awesome. That convergence of things makes that creativity fire up, and that's just cool. We're also joined in the chat by.
It kind of is a little wink at their application because, like I said, I felt like I'd already answered their questions.
Yeah.
So if you'll notice, the song doesn't really answer their questions very well. I just kind of repeating their questions back at them.
Yeah.
In a creative format.
I did notice that. I did notice that you set up the questions and like sang, but you didn't actually answer them. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, like. I did disabled POC LGBT is stuck in my head for the rest of my life because of how I put it in there. But it was kind of a artistic take on answering that one question about how like if you do read it, and I intended it this way, the way that I wrote it lyrically, it is technically answering the question, but most people are not gonna read that in, which is, what does success on YouTube mean to you? And then community is the answer. And then what are my communities? Disabled, POC, LGBT communities. So it's very short, but the answer is there.
Yeah. We are also joined here near the end of the show by unapologetically Bria B, who is an awesome YouTuber, and you should check them out as well. Yeah, you know Bria. Hi, thanks for tuning in.
Hello.
I'm going to wrap up my show with, well, let me ask you first. Is there any last thing you'd like to say to our viewers before we go, Annie?
I don't know. This morning I'm filled with love, even though I dropped my tea, and I'm excited that people came to see us today in the live stream. I want to say the love that I have right now, I want to spread it out to you, and I hope that you have a lovely day.
That's awesome. I'm going to end up with as I'm going to switch over to my dog cam, which I always do to finish my shows here. There's my sleeping dog. And superimposed over top of that, let me tell you a quote that I saw yesterday from Malcolm X. And the quote is, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Malcolm X knew what was going on. You know. As always, thank you for tuning in to my show. Thank you, Annie, for joining me.
Yay, I had fun.
And as always, tomorrow will be even better.
Bye.